Roll call.
Mr. Byrne,
Present.
Mr. Hess, Mr. Washington, Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Vickery, Mr. Tholen, Mr. McConnell, Mr. Scott, Mr. Snipes, Mr. Seroy, Ms. Evans, Mr. Payton, Ms. Dunbar, Ms. Parker, Mr. Whaler, Mr. Lear. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Need to make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 17, 2016 Court Services meeting. Any public commentary? Okay, that's what I have to ask exactly. It's early. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the Court Services meeting from May 17, 2016. And make them. Yeah. And approval of the minutes, public safety, July, August, September, October, November 2016 meetings, and the May 10th, 2017 meeting. Need a motion? Mr. McConnell, seconded by Mr. Vickery. All in favor? Opposed? I don't see the chief judge. No chief judge. They moved around the agenda. The sheriff. Do we have his monthly report on it? No. We don't have the monthly report. No, we don't have it. We didn't get it.
We make some copies.
We'll have the monthly report here in just a bit.
Good morning. Apparently the report wasn't emailed, and I apologize for that, because it was ready. It was supposed to be emailed out Monday. We'll find out where our screw up was, but we have it. We'll get it on the screen here in a second for you. I'll wait till it comes up. There we go. Yeah, but it worked out pretty good when we emailed it last month, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know why I didn't email this month. So. All right. What is it? All right. So, obviously, our revenue continues to be a heck of a lot better than it was last year at this time. If you look at May under number one, under Corrections Division, under A1, last year in May we brought in about $12,885 a day. This year, in May in 2017, we brought in $22,700 a day. Is about $10,000 more a day. So obviously those are positive things. Under number two, from fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 17, we're $1.6 million ahead of where we were last year. So those are obviously good things for everybody. Transport-wise, our transports continue to stay pretty consistent. I talked about the need for a couple more vans. It was asked at the Finance Committee meeting as to whether or not we could purchase those vans out of our seizure money. And the answer to whether or not they can be purchased out of the seizure money is yes. The answer of if I'm going to do that is no. I just don't think that's a responsibility of seizure money to pay for things that we do daily. And if we do this now, you know, what are we going to have to do next time we need vans? I think using that seizure money for things that should be provided to us to do our job is inappropriate. We use that money for training for our guys. We use that money for equipment for our guys. And I just don't believe that it needs to be used to purchase things that we need to do our job, especially since a lot of our transports are with the feds and with ICE, and the fact that we are bringing in a lot of revenue, somehow we can pay for vans to do our job.
Mr. McConnell?
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff, I've always been an advocate of the idea that we should be purchasing vans out of our excess. And I've always been an advocate that we should be setting aside enough money to buy to be buying 5 a year or 4 a year or whatever it is, instead of you giving us the money that we make you go borrow money and then pay interest on it. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I know I've been shot down on it before, but I'm still an advocate of taking 10%, 5, whatever it is that 5 vans cost, and rotating these vans every 5 years. It just makes sense to me.
And truthfully, we're not asking for 5. I mean,
Well,
we're asking for 2.
I understand that. I've always been an advocate
Right.
of
No,
doing
I
that,
appreciate that.
because that way you rotate them, you get the best out of them. You got 100,000 miles warranty on them, and that's about what they last.
Well, we have the 2 new vans that are just getting put into service. And then we have our other, I think, 5 or 6 vans that have upwards of 120 up
Yeah.
to 140,000 miles on it. We did just have one breakdown, I want to say 2 weeks ago, up on Interstate 57 near Sauk Village, loaded with ICE detainees. So, and as it turned out, it was a transmission issue. The van has 130,000 miles on it. The transmission right now, our early estimated cost is going to be about $3,200 to $3,500.
Yep.
And so you have
So
to
I
start
don't
figuring
know.
out, is it worth fixing? Is it worth, you know, so.
Well, I don't know how, we've gone over this several times, and I've brought it back to finance and all that stuff, and it just does not make any sense whatsoever to have you give us the money and then we make you go borrow money.
Well,
I don't know where that goes or how that gets done, but it needs to get done. Soapbox over.
any other questions on corrections side of it? Under the sworn, some good things happening. Our citations are up significantly. Our calls for service are up significantly. So civil process is up. I don't want to say significantly, but civil process is up. And remember, we have changed our fees to be more consistent with the cost of what it costs us to do our business. So that will also be some increased revenue as well. So, I mean, that's obviously additional revenue that in all the numbers that we figure have not been figured into projected revenue. So that's probably a good thing. And then lastly, if you look at the bed rentals, you look at the average per month at $764,000 under line 6, and that's getting back to looks like 2014, 2015 numbers, and we think that number will continue to go up. So, questions on that?
Questions at all? Motion to approve, with second, Mr. McConnell. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, Mr. Snipes.
I was thinking I was Casper for a minute. No. So I believe some time ago when we started getting the ICE detainees in, and I asked a question as we considered costs that everything would be factored in to that particular cost, the cost of transportation, everything. And I believe that that time, you stated that it was, you all considered that, and that it was kind of like embedded within, you know, the cost, expense, etc. So in that cost of the bed rentals and that we receive, there should be transportation costs that's allocated up in there, and I'll be interested in taking those dollars, and it should easily be able to purchase the two vans, because that was cost that was generated within those particular figures. So I don't see why there would be a finance issue, being that that was done, or am I mistaken?
I mean, we do get reimbursed monthly for transportation anyway,
Right.
so.
So the money should be there, that's what I'm saying.
Chairman Wheeler.
Thank you. I think that maybe we look at, well, let me back up a second. The first two vans that we got were all out of capital development. That's the way they were budgeted. Whether it's just shifting money around, but we may consider putting another line item for vans into corrections so we can better isolate and just shift that over there to be able to, like you're talking, maybe assess the cost. We'll look at that. That would make sense to be where we could take a look and do a better analysis. And as the sheriff said, he is reimbursed monthly, so a lot of that stuff is a wash, but you can't, I don't want to say starve the golden goose. You can't do that. So we want to make sure we treat it correctly. Just a question on the inmate telephone fees. That's way down, and I know that's not necessarily, just for my own knowledge. Why is that so little compared to what it used to be?
Because the FCC changed the rates, because heaven forbid, somebody in custody, you can't, now all of a sudden they feel like you can't charge them all this money to call home.
I see.
So that's an FCC issue.
Okay. And now the state law that was just signed with non-violent offenders being able to bond out. Are we, of that 220, do you have just off-the-cuff estimate? I mean, how many of the 220 would that impact not be in?
I do not have an off-the-cuff estimate, but I can tell you that between jail administration and the state's attorney's office, they do talk pretty regularly about people who are in here for low bonds to try to either move them through the system or get them out.
Okay.
So we're already kind of doing that, but it's going to have the impact on this, and I think there's still question as to when it goes into effect, if it's immediate or if it's January 1st. And maybe Jim can address that later. The issue is going to be the fact that we release these people on these non-violent offenses with no bond, and then that's going to affect every police department in the county to have to go rearrest these people again when they recommit. Now, I know that's assuming something that we don't know is true,
Right.
but only past history can tell us that happens a lot.
Sure.
So we'll release them on a misdemeanor retail theft or a misdemeanor disorderly, and then a week later they'll commit another retail theft and they'll be back in here. So that affects police, it affects corrections, and I mean it's typical legislators who don't know what the hell they're doing, who don't ask anybody about it. They just go do what they want to do, and
Sure.
that's not uncommon.
As a follow-up, I think Tom had mentioned something about probation as well.
Sure.
That's puts
That's
a
gonna
real
affect everybody.
It's an HR issue. They just don't have the people to monitor
Right.
those out. So
Right.
that's something that this committee and probably finance will have to consider in the very near future.
Yes.
So I'm sure he might have something to say about that today. Thank you.
Mr. Snipes.
If I'm not mistaken, this law was just passed on Friday, and so it had to be implemented on Monday by the courts. If I'm not mistaken, it deals with class, I guess, what do they call it? The lower class of the felonies, the 3X and 4X felonies and the misdemeanors. And basically, this is called the least restrictive bond. So if you're talking about least restrictive, then there's a wide area when you're saying least restrictive, as to an individual being just released out on his own recognizance versus some minimum amount of bond that can be applied. And hopefully, I guess they take into factor the past records and things of this nature. Hopefully, there is at least a least restrictive dollar amount applied to it versus just the recog, unless it's just a person that was like a first timer or something of that nature. But then again, that's to the discretion of the court. But it was interesting to see that they would go from the felony list. I thought they would stick with the misdemeanor, and then the law has to be applied, so that means it has to be on every judge's desk in the whole 9 yards. So, there's going to be some, I don't want to say getting used to, but implementing the process. And then is there anyone monitoring the particular process to see how it affects the whole? And if any past indication of the state passing these laws, that's probably not going to be the case.
It's going to affect everybody involved in the criminal justice system, whether it's the state's attorney, the public defender, the circuit clerk, probation. It's going to affect everybody. And then not in a good way.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
Sheriff, if we had to turn any detainees away
For
because we weren't ready for more, or
no,
we can handle what?
we can handle now upwards of 180.
So we're pretty much there then.
We are.
But they kind of come and go, correct?
They do, but we also now, and we're in the process of this, it's called VCT, the camera, that they won't come and go as often now because we will have access from the jail to the immigration courts so that they can be on camera here instead of us moving into McHenry or somewhere else to be on camera. That's why there was so much movement before.
I guess I'm trying to understand how the system works. Like in a month's time, would half of them leave and you fill them with that many more?
It's immigration is much like the criminal justice system itself. You don't know when they're leaving and when they're coming and when they're going, and there's a lot of hearings, and so we really don't know either. I mean, it just depends on the individual.
I have people asking sometimes, how that's all working, and I really don't know myself.
It's working good. I mean, the corrections has done outstanding. Our lieutenant in charge of the transportation probably, I know he had hair in October when we started. I haven't seen him in the last few weeks. I don't know if he has any hair left, but he does. he maneuvers around a lot and does a great job. And we're just we're at the will of ICE, and we try to accommodate as best we can.
You see it continuing?
Yes.
Been good for us.
The second thing on the agenda has really been addressed, and it was regarding the subpoenas of the police officers. Mr. Rowe and I have sat down and talked about a way to do this without having to serve a particular police officer individually. It is frustrating from the standpoint of Mr. Rowe's position because his assistant state's attorneys go into court and there's a double standard. When the police officers don't show for whatever reason, Mr. Rowe is forced to drop the case, dismiss the case. But when the defendant doesn't show, they just continue it or issue a warrant. But so don't get me started on that. Might say something I might regret. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Mike, are all the inspections and everything done by the ICE and we've passed everything?
We have. Actually, we passed Nakamoto's inspection.
I couldn't remember the name.
Nakamoto. And we are now starting to kind of gear ourselves up. We're under the year 2000 standards. They have since, in 2011, came out with new standards, and we are to make ourselves more marketable, I guess. Starting to look into what we can do to get 2011 certified, and that's the highest level of certification. And there's only, I think there's one jail of the 5 they use in our area that is 2011 accredited. So we are starting to look in that direction to see what we need to do, what it's going to cost, and things like that. And we'll make a decision later. We're not going to break the bank on getting 2011 certified if we don't have to, but I think it would be make us a little more marketable if we do that. So we are exploring it anyway.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
I want to just question I know we have an unoccupied, undeveloped portion of the jail. I know it might be used for other things, but getting to the point of renovation, is there any foresight as to the if there's any grant money available, or what they consider, or offset of cost in bringing additional revenue, developing that area that's really bringing no income to us, but it's there lying dormant, but when we built it, we made it, for the addition of growth?
To answer the first part of your question, grants, we have somebody who's always looking to see if there's anything that we can do. The second part, yeah, the shell, or phase 3, and we call it both, but if we were to finish that, we could probably house another 300. The problem, just like anything else, and why I would suggest at this point, unless somebody walks in with $15 million, I would say let's hold off a little while, but because there's no guarantee. I mean, we could say, look, let's do this because we have ice, and by the time we invest in the money, if we even could at this point, in 2, 3, 4 years, and maybe the president changes and maybe the rules change, and then ice goes away, and then we're stuck with 300 empty beds and a $15 million price tag on it. So at this point, I mean, we continue to search for somebody to pay for it, but we've not found that person yet. We're working closely with ICE. We've reached out to Washington, D.C. to ask them if they could spot us $15 million, and we would guarantee them those beds for 10 or 12 years. Right now, they have said not yet, but obviously they know it's available. So
Thank you very
good.
much.
Thank you. What's that? It would, and that's still ongoing. They're still working on that as well. So
Thank you, Sheriff.
thank you.
State's Attorney Rowe. In your packet, you'll have State's Attorney's grand jury report. Need a motion to approve? Mr. Stauffenberg, second by Mr. Hess. All in favor? Opposed? Hello, sir.
Good morning. You see on the grand jury report, we had 20 true bills returned, puts the yearly total up to 333. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but you should have the charts to show you what different type of cases are that are pending right now. Any questions about that?
Any questions for State's Attorney?
The mobile app that we launched on Monday, I want to thank the sheriff, the coroner, the chiefs of police from Kankakee, Bourbonnais, Bradley, Mantino, mayors Mantino, Kankakee, probation, everyone for helping with that initiative, helping us get that out there in the community. We're setting it up with Crime Stoppers, so they'll be receiving the tips and they can push them out to the relevant agencies. We've probably got about 16 of them that came in just over the past 2 days. So most of them are related to drug activity. So we've passed them along to KMEG. So it's kind of good to see that people are using the app. Collections, we're doing some in-house. I just wanted to let you know that we have one attorney and one paralegal working on that. The attorney's in the courtroom entering the orders. The paralegal sits out in the hallway outside of 200 and gets agreements with the defendants who owe the money to the county. I think in May, what do we do, Andy? I think we have 2 court dates a month, or maybe 1, about
You've had 4 court dates altogether so far for that.
since we've started.
And the total, Desiree gave me the total yesterday was $37,359.59.
So, and it's working. And I know in the beginning we had 50 cases. Now I think we have almost 200 cases we had. And they brought in around 13 or 14,000 of that in May. So it's good to see. You know, the work's certainly paying off. And then one other issue. So on every Saturday, we have bond court here at the jail for people that have been arrested on Friday. And if it's a holiday, sometimes we'll have it on Sunday. And I think the chief judge has spoken with Andy about this, and Mr. Regas and I spoke with some of the judges yesterday. A concern is that in the past it was just the state's attorney and the judge. The defendant wasn't present, and they had no counsel present for that bond hearing. We've now changed it so that there's a judge, state's attorney's there, and the defendant is present. But it makes me uncomfortable in our office, because then you have a defendant there with no counsel, who sometimes is being asked questions by a judge, and really should have counsel present. You know, everyone has the right to have counsel present at any type of hearing. And it's just the right thing to do, to make sure that they have an attorney there at that initial proceeding. I think in the past, the state's attorney's office used to pay one of their employees, I think it was $6,000 a year, to attend that every single Saturday or on Sunday when they have holiday court. And it's something that they had talked about maybe doing through the public defender's office. It's needed, and we need to start it as soon as possible. You know, so it's probably something that maybe we could get on finance on the 28th, just for consideration. The problem we're having is, you know, we're going forward. We're there every Saturday, and we're having these hearings, and these defendants are without counsel. And it creates a liability concern on the one hand, but it's also a constitutional issue. They have a right to counsel. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, I think the sooner the better we could implement that.
Actually, I appreciate you mentioning that. It is on the agenda for the 28th as a $6,000, at least whether it's official or acknowledged budget impact. I'd mentioned it to the finance committee before that it was coming, because I agree, it's something we have to do. And I was hoping at some point, I know we had talked about, you know, people to go out and sit with defendants while they look at their video, and if we could somehow maybe wrap this up into the same thing, that we were able to accomplish 2 different things with the same individual, if you will. But we'll take a look at the cost, and that's up to Gus how he manages those people. But we can't have huge impacts on the budget, because obviously we're still $4.8 million in the hole. But we do need to do what's right. So it'll be in finance.
Good.
As part of all the other budget amendments and discussions we have.
Thank you. Circuit Clerk. In your packet, you have the Circuit Clerk's monthly report. Need a motion to approve, put on file. Mr. Washington, second by Ms. Dunbar. All in favor? Opposed? Motion. Thank you. Here, please.
Good morning. I'll have you hold on to this little paper that I just gave you for a few seconds until we get through everything that I have on my notes. We had talked last month about generating a comparison report for the increased fee structure that we did for the Sheriff's Department. So other than the bond fee, what other fees would you like me to do a comparison? Let me find that in the chart so you'll see what I'm talking about. We only started the increase in May for the bond fee, so I know that there was nothing to report for this month. But it would be The bonding fee, it's on the page 1 of my cash book report, about 9 or 10 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 down. The bonding fee. So I can, I can do a comparison on that specific line item, going backwards. Eventually, I don't think it would behoove us to do it even next month, maybe the month after. But I didn't know if there were any other line items that you would be interested in for next month.
Oh, Chairman Wheeler?
Thank you. I don't know if it's necessary every month, but we did want to look at court security over to how it trends versus,
Okay.
and that may be just, a semi-annual
Right.
look, because just we don't need to, track that long.
Right,
long
but
term.
I just wanted you to be able to have a comparison, so.
Just the ones that we increased is what we're trying
Okay.
to see what that meant to the bottom line.
Okey doke. Okay, so, e-file, we are working on the e-appeals mandate that is up July 1st. We've been, preparing a test file to send to the appellate court in Ottawa. We are in the 3rd appellate court. Training with Tyler isn't going to be ready until June 20th or 22nd. So we have pretty much all of our pieces in place. We're waiting for the training. We do have a training this afternoon at around 1 o'clock on part of that too, of a webinar. But the actual training for the e-appeals is not going to be until next week. So I will have more information about that next month. As far as, as far as e-file, we've started just with 2 case types for now to kind of give ourselves a chance to, get acclimated to the process. So we're accepting L filing in the civil courtroom, which is Judge Albrecht's courtroom, and then CH filing, which generally are the foreclosure cases, just to get the bugs worked out. It's been going pretty well. My chief deputy, Debbie, is the one that's been doing those, and she says that, once she's gotten into the flow of it, it's not been terribly difficult, and she's looking forward to moving on and starting to train the other people in our office. The financial portions of it with our bookkeeper, because everything, of course, is e-filed, so the money is being automatically deposited into the account, and it's in a Chase account. That's who Tyler uses. So the bookkeeper has been trying to have phone conferences with our liaison from Tyler, but he's very stretched. He's working with several counties at the same time, and he's had some family personal issues and things that have kept him out of the office. So they keep regrouping every couple days trying to get that worked out. And I think she had a call with him yesterday again. So I haven't gotten a report back yet to see if she's comfortable with what's been going on with that, but we're getting there.
Chairman Wheeler?
Thank you. I just want to make sure I heard something correct. The fees that go through the e-file will go into Tyler's Chase account?
When a person files their case, they go through a Tyler website. Tyler, then they put their credit card number in or whatever, and then it goes through Chase Bank, and then Chase Bank automatically deposits the money into our account.
Okay, it's just straight pass-through, doesn't sit in there, and they're not making interest off. Okay, all right, that's what I need to know.
I'm sure they charge a fee of some sort, but that's not ours. No, they don't. Yes, no, not at all. Okay, so now for the Harrison Harris report portion of the collections. In the month of May, compared to last year, at the month of May, we're up $56,000. That includes a little over 1,000 cases that went through the Illinois Debt Recovery Program. Those 1,000 cases, we have to manually enter the information into the case system. So the file that goes through the regular Harrison Harris portion, That's all automated, and then we just double check to make sure that everything is fine. But the eye drop cases, because it goes through the comptroller, when it comes back, we have to manually enter the payment information and reconcile it at the end of the day. So that's an additional 1,000 cases that we had work with. Paula, that does the import and export with Harris, she's noted this time that she thought it was interesting that some of the cases that were collected in Harris this time were she's seen an increase in the backlog. So she said she found a 1993 felony, a 96 misdemeanor, and even, where was it, like a 1987 conservation violation. So somehow or other they're finding these people and bringing that money in. So, and of course a conservation violation usually doesn't amount to a lot of money, but we found them. The wage deduction court call has been started. The first call will be on June 29th, and that's a part of what Harris offers that was never done before. The state's attorney allowed for that to happen now. So we started off with just 50 cases just to see how it would work, and because the court work isn't as bad as the pre-court work and the after-court work. So we're starting off with 50, so I can let you know next month how that went. Then the amnesty program, that's what I've given you 2 reports. I prepared a report that's in the packet that was as of Thursday, June 8th. And then yesterday, I got a report from Paula that was the update. So some of the information is the same, and then there's additional information. But in 9 working days, we collected an extra $18,257.72 with the amnesty program. That's been interesting. Right at the beginning, a lot of these people weren't really aware that this was happening. So we had a gentleman come in, and he had done his homework ahead of time, and he had 4 tickets that he wanted to pay off. So he called ahead. So in May he called, and he wanted to know how much each case would be with all the interest. So he added that all up, and he came in with a money order for each case so that it was a clean entry, and he would get a clean receipt, and he would know exactly what was paid and whatever. Well, he came in on like June 2nd or something. So we said, well, hey, we got this thing going on, this amnesty program. So the interest is, we can do something else with the interest. Well, he ended up having a few more tickets. So we were able to pay off those tickets, then take the interest from that and put it aside until we paid off those first initial 4 tickets. And then we went back and started receipting the money with the additional money, so that we were able to pay off another 2 tickets. And then he had one ticket, and then we had another $3 or something to put on this extra ticket. Well, he went down to the cash station and got the rest of the money to pay that case off then. And so now all he has left is a DUI ticket to pay on. So we told him if he gets it paid in, full by the end of this month, we told him what the money is owed, what the money would be with the interest, and what the difference was pretty significant when it's a DUI. So I'm not sure if he'll be able to get that accomplished by the end of the month, but he left us with quite a bit of money. So those are some of the kind of stories that have been coming through. That guy, he came in at like 4:15, and of course it was after 5 o'clock by the time we got this all figured out. And then we did give him his releases, or we will, I'm not sure, for the Secretary of State, but that would have been another 15 minutes worth of work. And he said, well, I need to pay off the DUI anyway, so I'll just get them all at the same time. So, and then we had another guy yesterday that came in, and he had $700 cash in his hand, and he wanted to pay as many tickets off as he could, and he ended up with 38 cents. So here on this last column, he did add the 38 cents that's on this one payment. That really isn't that one that he put on a regular case, and so that 38 cents, really he paid 30 cents to the case and 8 cents went for the percentage increase or whatever. So that's been busy, very busy. But and then we had, of course, someone come in who paid on the 28th or something, called us up the next week and wanted to know if he could get his money back for the difference, you know, and so we said no, that the program wasn't set up until June 1st. And so he called me, he called several people, he even wanted to talk to Desiree in the state's attorney's office, and I warned her, I said, I think he's just, you know, giving it a whirl, and if it worked, fine, and if not, well, no harm, no foul. So he was fine. So now a new thing I have to talk about is Explore Information Services, LLC. It's a data subscription agreement. I had a former employee in the circuit clerk's office in Cook County. He is retired, and he is an attorney, and he has paired up with another attorney, and they are working with this Explore Information Services for a data subscription thing. So what they do is they collect information from the circuit clerk's offices on traffic type cases, and then they end up forwarding it to the insurance companies, the statistics, so that they can gauge what the insurance rates should be. This is a revenue generator for our office. We will be, the annual subscription rate is $12,000 a year. What I needed to do was to get the chief judge to agree to it, which he has. I needed an administrative order from him to allow for something like this to happen, which I now have. And I have the contract is ready to sign. I had sent it off to the state's attorney's office just for review. And so after today, I should be able to sign it. Kevin has prepared an FTP site, so what will happen is me or someone from my office will load the information. I also had to make sure that Courtview was able to accommodate this type of a thing without extra setup fees or whatever, and we are able to generate this type of a report with the system we have. So I will generate the report, load it into the FTP site, then this Explorer, they're from Minnesota, so they will then go in and upload the information, extract what they need, and then they work through the Secretaries of State office as well. I've had other agencies request this same type of information, but I wanted to wait till I got this all underway, and so I know what I have going on, and then I can do the same with other agencies. So it's a potential, you know, few $1,000s a year that we can increase in the revenue side. And generally this money goes into the automation fund from other counties. That's what they do.
Chairman Wheeler?
Just a couple quick questions. Did you say the cost was how much a year?
Revenue.
No revenue at all?
It's revenue to us.
Right, but there was no cost on this
No.
agreement whatsoever?
We already, everything, I checked it out, everything's set up, so we don't have any setup
It was
costs.
2,000 roughly, you thought, revenue? Is that what you?
12,000 a year,
All right.
$1,000 a month.
Is this an agreement between the circuit clerk's office and the company, or the county and the company?
Circuit clerk and Explorer Information Services.
Yeah, we probably should have a determination. I don't know if, I think you as a sole employer may have that opportunity. I've supported, obviously. We want to make sure we do this the right way as far as executing that contract.
Well,
and we'll see what the state's attorney says, who has to sign it. So.
We've already gone through all that, and Graham has given me a memo. I don't have it with me, but he's given me a memo of the things that, because he caught talking about the federal court, and of course in Cook County, the federal court is in Cook County, but we changed the language so that it reflected Champaign County. Explore Information Services agree to the exclusive jurisdiction by the state courts located in Kankakee County. State of Illinois and federal courts located in Champaign County, USA hereby waive any jurisdictional venue inconvenient. So,
Sure, what I was referring to was the statutory ability for departments to enter into contracts that binds the county board. So we want to make sure that that's obviously within that agreement. So if we, like I said, I don't have a problem with it. It sounds like a good idea. But in the past, we've had some issues with departments signing contracts that really only vest the power to do so within the county board. So this may be outside of that because of your unique situation
Okay.
as a sole employer. So we'll find out.
Okay.
I just didn't know if you'd gotten that far, and it didn't seem like we had gotten that far yet.
we'll check. Okay.
He's gonna check.
Yeah, that's fine. But
Thank you.
it seems like a very positive thing. And then, like I said, I've had this one person emailing me, and finally I wrote her back and I said, I will call you when I'm ready. I don't have all my information set up yet. And so she's anxious to get this going too. So, sure.
Mr. Snipes?
And if I could rewind back to the amnesty program, I know that these are the ones that paid before. Do you have any that makes payments, or is this just straight payment?
The amnesty program is only for a ticket that's paid in full. And they have to come into the office. They can't do it through credit card at home. They have to come in and pay, yeah. And so, like, that's why this one was in error, that the 38 cents really wasn't a full payment of what was left in a case. So that one we did put the percentage on because it was a partial payment. But yeah, everything had to be completely paid in full. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Defender's Office, Mr. Regas. In your packet, you have Mr. Regas' monthly report. Need a motion to approve, put on file. Mr. Snipes, second by Mr. Payton. All in favor? Opposed?
Good morning. So you can see from my report, this is stats that are through the month of April. And if you look at the top, where we have a category felony, misdemeanor, traffic, juveniles, on the very far right hand, that PND means how many cases we have pending. So we have 410 felonies pending, 424 misdemeanors, 1,000 traffic tickets, and 250 juveniles. So that is, those figures are, I feel, very manageable. There are some cases that we do need to move along. I'm sure the sheriff's aware of that. He has some cases in mind, but we're working on that. So those are our pending cases that we have at the present time. If you look at the individual public defenders, the important figure here is the YTD, the year-to-date, on their felonies. And the year-to-date means how many felonies have they closed so far this year. And of course, that is what I'm concerned, and that's what I push on my assistants. And the American Bar Association standards say that assistant public defenders should close 75 felonies a year. That should be the limit that he can handle competently. As you can see, with 1/3 of the year gone, my assistants are right on track for that, reaching that 75 felony cases per year. And on top of that, many of those people will end up handling over 100 misdemeanors on top of that, like guys like Trey Brazel, Patrick O'Brien, Robert Regas. So these stats I feel are very good. You'll see where some people have very low numbers on the year-to-date, and that's because they handle different departments. Right now, I'm handling the criminal juvenile cases, and that's why my stats aren't up there on the felony year-to-date. If you go down, for instance, Frank Estrella, he's closed 8 cases this year, but Frank Estrella is handling many of the difficult murder cases. We just closed the Monroe Clayton murder case where Mr. Estrella and I closed that case within 4 months from the date of his arrest. And there were some unusual circumstances there based on his condition. The next case Mr. Estrella and I are working on is the double homicide where 2 children perished in that apartment fire on Station Street. So we're hoping to get that case set in the middle of July for trial and move that one along too. You'll see Ben Lawson has only 3 cases closed. He's brand new, so I really can't say anything with regard to his performance. Rebecca Cellini, she is handling what we call JA cases, abused and neglect cases. So she's not really doing felony cases. And Drew Parsons, he's doing, he's got 13 felonies that are what we call post-conviction cases that are very complicated legal issues that basically are coming back to our court system on appeal or to perfect a record for the appeal. So he has a lot of legal research that he has to do. And in addition to that, he is doing some traffic cases also. So I feel like, you know, I've got a quality staff. They're all pulling their weight, and things are going pretty well. I appreciate Mr. Rowe and Mr. Wheeler helping me with the issue of the bond hearings on Saturday. It seems like, you know, there's more and more duties that the public defender has to attend to. There's drug court, there's veterans court, there's mental health hearings. We're rotating right now every day that we provide a public defender for the 1:30 bond settings, but nobody wanted to do them on the weekend. So I feel like that compensation for the weekend is only fair to the public defender that's going to handle that for 52 weeks. I have one full-time lawyer. He makes $55,000 a year. I have 11 part-time lawyers. Half of them make $33,000 a year. Half of them make $35,000 a year. And it's not like my staff is overpaid. I really feel like they're underpaid, and I feel like it's very important to the respect of our criminal justice system that we make sure that there are adequate resources that are provided to defend poor people. It says a lot about our society, and it's something that we're doing at the present time, but there's always additional needs that we have to attend to. Also, I appreciate Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Rowe helping me with regard to getting somebody part-time, $12 an hour, to go down to the jail and sit and let the client read the reports, rather than having a lawyer go down there and sit for a couple hours while the client wants to read his reports. I feel it's like money well spent and a very practical thing to do. So other than that, I'm real happy with the way things are going, and if you have any questions.
Chairman Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my comment is that I was hoping that this extra $6,000 would help cover that person too. I wasn't saying that we needed to go out and hire somebody else. That was my comment.
Yeah, it's an existing public defender that's going to do the Saturday work for an additional $6,000 compensation.
Right, but that was also to cover off what you just mentioned, is I was agreeing that we need another $12 an hour person. I actually didn't say that.
Yeah, we need an additional person for the 12.
I was not agreeing with that statement, though. That's what I was saying. I understand the need, but I would just want, for clarification, I wasn't recommending another position. Okay. I was hoping this person for Saturdays might be able to help cover some of that during the week as well.
I'm sorry, what?
That the person that we're authorizing the $6,000 for per year to do the weekend stuff might be able to do the miscellaneous pop-ins to do during the week, to be able to sit with the people out here as well as part of those duties.
Oh,
If you could blend the two together. That's what I was, we're not.
We're not on the same page there.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I did
It's all right.
want to make sure that that was clear.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Thank you, Chairman. Are all these closed cases had gone to jury trial, or some of them plea bargain?
The majority of them are always plea bargain.
That's what I thought.
Very small percentage of them actually go to a trial, jury trial or bench trial. Yeah.
So that helps the load a little.
The problem is that in order to reach a point where you can negotiate a case, you have to be prepared to go to trial,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a lot of work that goes into reaching that point. Like sometimes we'll need a DNA expert to like help our position, and once we get a report from a DNA expert or a psychologist or psychiatrist, it helps us negotiate the case, so.
Very good.
Mr. Snipes.
Yeah, when you were conversating, there were kind of like three questions that was popping up. The first one is, I'm looking at the numbers of pending cases. Now, generally, I know laws changes, things changes, but my assumption is that the PD is appointed when there is jail time being considered, or the potential of jail time for the client is when they appoint the public defender. So in 1,024 cases, jail time is not being waived.
Yeah, it's, it doesn't matter if, Mr. Rowe and I had a discussion about this. It would be great if we could go to court and ask the judge, is the state's attorney wanting jail time, okay? If he says no, then the public defender isn't appointed, but that's not the way it works. If the case carries a potential jail time, public defender is appointed. Now, out of those 1,000 traffic cases, you might have an individual who is charged with drunk driving, driving while suspended, and then there's an assortment of minor cases, improper lane usage, disobeying a stop sign. Those cases are included in that 1,000, so.
Okay.
That's not 1,000 drunk driving cases or 1,000 driving while suspended. There's what we call companion tickets that go along with the more serious ones, but if the case carries a possibility of jail time, public defender is appointed.
Okay, so if the state says that they're waiving jail time, then that case is gone, as far as your office is concerned.
No, no.
So they have to continue even though they are not, the jail time has been waived
Yeah.
on a minor ticket,
Well,
like traffic, improper traffic lane usage?
yeah,
or-
some cases like improper lane usage, they don't carry a jail sentence.
Okay,
Okay.
so they're gone. Okay, I was just interested when I'm looking at, I know the felonies, jail time, you got some misdemeanors carry it, but sometimes the traffic cases, I'm looking at 1,024, and I'm saying is those many cases, have the potential of jail time. The other issue, you stated that the PD should close 75 cases a year. You stated that you had a full-timer. Now, are they held to the same standard, which means all of them, whether they're making the full-time or if they're just making 35,000 or whatever is the part-time, they still are held to that same standard of having to close out 75 a year?
Yeah, there's really no, the full-time public defender that I have, his name is Jim Burns. And if you look the second line, the year-to-date, you'll see that he's handling the entire aggravated traffic call, which is, he has currently 880 pending tickets, and he has closed 500 tickets so far this year. So that aggravated traffic call is a big call. The state's attorney devotes one lawyer full-time to that call, and we have one public defender full-time that's devoted to that call.
Okay, my final question is, I know the full-time probably gets the full-time benefits, but those individuals that are making the 35,000 a year plus, do they get any, do we pay anything until their retirement, or do they get insurance benefit?
That is probably the one saving thing that enables me to hire quality help, okay? Because, let's be realistic. I think any lawyer that's competent could make $100,000 a year easy in Kankakee County. So why would somebody take that job for $35,000 a year? Because they get excellent health insurance and they get pension. So that translates more, when you look at the benefits, translates more to like $50,000 a year. So then you're talking something significant why we get qualified, experienced people that want to be public defenders. I mean, you look at, Jimmy Burns has been in the public defender's office for over 25 years. He makes $55,000 a year. You know,
With benefits.
Karen Farmer, she's been in the public defender's office 20 years. Dawn Landwehr, 15 years. I've got over 25 experience in the public defender's office. There's some experienced people on our staff.
Okay.
Chairman Wheeler?
Thank you, thank you. I just had a kind of a question along those same lines. And by no means is this comment or question meant to impugn anybody's ability or skill or commitment to doing a good job for their client. But do a majority of these folks have a practice outside of what they do for the county in your office?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
and I would imagine there is an impact on their time, but how would you estimate as far as their dedication towards the county versus their dedication towards their own personal practice?
I would say the work
and ability to carry their own health
Their
insurance.
work they're doing, they're putting in 20 hours a week.
20 hours a week?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
alrighty. So
And,
it's, so that's,
yeah.
all right, I'll do some math, but I want to say as long as you perceive and I guess maybe the state's attorney's office perceives that we're getting that value on the appearances and things are moving through the system very well, I would say that there's nothing broke, don't fix it. But
Yeah.
you start to look at a rich benefit for somebody who may have a practice that they're already making $100,000 outside of this. Then as a county that is completely cash strapped, we would want to look at that. But I haven't heard that it's necessarily broken on that commitment, and as long as the process is working, the people are moving through the system.
Yeah, I mean, there's several lawyers on my staff that make $100,000 a year in private practice, but they're working 60 hours a week.
Right.
Traditionally, we've always had part-time public defenders in Kankakee County. Ever since I've been around, that's the way it is. And it's a benefit to the county because we don't have to pay for the support, the office equipment, the secretaries, the supplies. They've got their own office where they pay for that. Okay, I've only got 2 non-lawyer people that work for me. They answer the phone, they attend to people with questions, they do our filing, as opposed to the state's attorney's office, whose all their employees are full-time, but they have a support staff of probably a dozen people. So it's a great savings to the county to have the part-time people. In the future, I'd like to see a little more of a blend, a couple more full-time as well as the part-time. But for right now, the system's working.
Mr. Snipes?
I have no problems with probably making this statement. There is the cost-benefit analysis compared to the service that you're going to render with these particular attorneys far outweighs what if they were to hire these attorneys in private practice, because in private practice, just to go to an attorney dealing with any felony case, you're talking $5,000 or $10,000 being put down, and you're talking about a case going $75,000 to $100 and some thousand if they were to just hire a attorney. These attorneys have to handle a huge load, plus go down and see these individuals or whatever. There is no way in a lawyer's reality that if you look at the service of the PD department and the caseload that they handle, and you was to apply it in the real world analogy, this would look like public aid versus the billionaires. And so therefore, I think you get the bang for your buck. That would not ever really be an issue as far as the cost-benefit analysis. So just want to put that spiel in there as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mr. Snipes. And you got to also realize other counties in Illinois use the same system that we do for the part-time public defenders. Tazewell County has a population the same as ours. They have 1 full-time public defender and a dozen assistant public defenders, but their assistant public defenders are making between $45,000 and $60,000 a year. And if you check the other counties, Macon County, I think Kane, there's a couple others around our population size, we are at the bottom of the pay scale. And those public defenders get to have private practice on the side also. But we're low, 33 and 35,000 for our assistant part-time public defenders.
And the full-time was 50?
The one full-time person I have is 55,000 a year. He's gonna be doing the weekend call for the additional $6,000 a year.
Burns?
Any other questions for Gus?
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, sir. Probation, Mr. Latham. In your packet, you'll see probation monthly report. Need a motion to approve, put on file. Ms. Dunbar, second by Mr. Washington. All in favor? Opposed? Morning, sir.
Good morning. Just,
Oh, Mr. Hess.
Thank you, Chairman. Tom, is this wrong, or why is the spike in home confinement for the curfew? It says 26 and year-to-date 50.
That's a lot of that's on the juvenile side.
Yeah?
That's spiked from, we were carrying about 6 or 7, now we're up in the 20s. So, and that's, a lot of times it's changing judge. New juvenile, presiding juvenile judge, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just wondering why the spike.
Yeah, they're meeting with me quite a bit about that, because it's shot up quite a bit, but.
Okay,
so, yeah.
thank you.
Just real quick on the stats, as you can see, attempted 722 field contacts, 665 were successful. We had 2,100 office contacts for a total of 2,771 successful contacts, which puts us at a little over 13,000 year to date. Completed 64 investigations and 143 drug tests, and that's about screened 36 minors for detention and detained 22. So just to go over that real quick. That really stands out from last month. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Latham?
And just, I know there's been a lot of talk about the Bail Reform Act already. I've talked about it several times the last few months. It is a concern. You know, if you look at the numbers of what the jail booked in a 12-month period, it's over 5,500 people. That might include everyone, I understand that, but even if you take 10% of that and say they would be on some sort of supervision, pretrial supervision, it's 550 people added, a population we don't deal with already. And that was the concern coming down, with all this coming down is, you know, we have, and that doesn't count the bond reports that need to be done on every one individual. Every one of these individuals will have a report done every day. So if it's 7 to 10 individuals are booked into the jail or on Monday's hire, we would be coming out here doing a report on them. We assess them with an assessment tool, a validated assessment tool. We put that report together, criminal history, employment, everything we can put together for court that day. And then you have the supervision side of it. The supervision is the same pretty much for anyone on any kind of probation. There's drug testing, there's face-to-face, there's field contacts, home visits, GPS, curfews, whatever, you know, is the same for these individuals. So it's not, you know, 500 people, but yet we have to have little contact with them. It's a regular supervision type standard we would have. And it's, right now, if you look at our caseloads, you know, we don't have room to absorb that at all. I do get funding in the grant and aid for pretrial. I think right now it's about $48,000 to change, $50,000. But that position has 100 and something regular cases are supervised. So it's a huge, it'll be a huge impact on us. And like I said, that's only 10% of that number. I don't know, it could be, you know, a lot higher. I think, you know, when you talk to other counties, and I don't want to say, well, I got the worst situation in the world, but in a way, when you talk to counties north of us, they have county-funded positions. Most of the departments have people that are 100% funded by the county, and they can, just bigger staffs, they can absorb this. You talk to counties south of us, with a few exceptions like the Tazwells of the world or something, they're not so concerned because they might detain a few people a week, you know, in a small county, southern Illinois type thing. So with our situation, with our crime level, with our size, with our financial situation, it's a concern. I guess I'm not up here asking for anything right now, but it's just it's a concern, and we've done a lot of we've reorganized our both offices and how we supervise people. The biggest impact of that change was in our adult division in the Kankakee office. The same group that would be impacted by this the most would be, you know, they've done a wonderful job taking all the changes and different policy that's been implemented and everything, but I think throwing this on, and it's coming, I just don't know, you know, how soon we're going to move on it. But by January, and AOIC is really moving on the pretrial services area, as I've been saying, so I'll just keep you posted on what I'm meeting with the judges today, Judge Kramer, a couple other judges today, to see how we're doing this, but that's the impact on probation that I've kind of been talking about before, so I just wanted
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Tom, did you ever get all your grant money?
Well, we got, you need grant and aid?
Yeah, this wasn't $600,000 or something. Did you get all of that?
Well, we got July and August, or no, August and September. So we have 3 months of the state fiscal year.
So
as I sit here.
if you had all that money, would you still be looking to add staff?
Well, we're going to get all that money, but that funds our current staffing level.
Okay,
So
where you're at now, okay.
Yeah, we're at now. I mean, like I said before, McLean County has 5 pretrial officers, and so I mean, we used to have 2. Now we really don't have any. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But as AOIC pushes this, and yes, I'll be begging and crying for more funding, but I mean, we know what the situation is, everything.
Sure.
With the state situation, I've said we've benefited because they haven't cut our grant aid because the court orders issued to pay us at the previous amount. However, the bad side is it never goes up; it never increases. And so, with this kind of stuff, it's going to be very difficult. But I mean, I'm looking deeper into the numbers, but you can look at a few people would be needed because they have curfews, you have field units that have to be. It impacts everyone. They have to be checked on and.
Sure.
And so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman Wheeler?
Just a question, did we approve the report?
Yeah.
We did, okay, I just wanted to miss that, okay.
Mr. Snipes?
I'll make this quick. I heard you say the sheriff's numbers was like 5,500 is like the number that we kind of rest a year. That kind of almost represents a little bit over 5% of our population, and I'm just wondering if the Kankakee is experiencing a decrease in population according to what we read in the newspaper. Could it be that the criminal off the street is impacting the population decrease?
I don't think it helps it. But now that number I talked about might include everything. Sheriff or Chad, or I might include everybody that's booked in, including some of the ICE detainees. I don't know, but no, it doesn't. I was hoping you'd say it would. Yeah. But so I mean that's I don't know. I'm sure it does, but it's if that's a true number of, it's going to be an impact on our office, and I don't know how to. I sit here with a dumb look on my face, I guess, but I don't know what we're going to do. But I'll keep everyone posted.
Anything else from Mr. Latham? Going once, going twice?
Just, I know it was brought up at county board yesterday, but Veterans Court graduation. I think there's two individuals graduating June 22nd at 11:30. So that's it.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Gessner? In your packet, you have the monthly reports for coroner's reports. Need a motion to combine and approve. Mr. Vickery, second by Mr. Stauffenberg. All in favor? Opposed? Morning.
Good morning. Nice sunshine day out today, a little rain. Good enough for golfing. I don't think I'm bringing the population down a little bit. Looking at the reports, and I'm gonna go through a PowerPoint here, just a short little PowerPoint, just to show you where we're at in 6 months. Is that good?
I don't have that George Washington.
Anyhow, as you can see, our autopsies are continually rising. I say that every meeting there, but that's a lot of money right there, every autopsy that we're doing. As far as the outside autopsies, we didn't have any in May. I'd ask, we've had 9 so far. Indigents have been very good, and as long as the and cremations is basically the high standards right now, that what's going on. You can see that we had 1 homicide with and suicides, but I think a big point of suicides are extremely up this year, as I'll go over in my PowerPoint in a few minutes. Other than that, I'm declaring 3. Can I go into that right now? Or do you want it? I'm declaring 3 portable radios surplus. As 2 years ago, we bought completely new, brand new, through my coroner's fees of all new portable radios that have to be digital, updated by 2020. And the one below that is a digital upgrade of my car radios. When I got my new car out of there, I put a new radio in that, and it was also my last car I had a new radio in. So I had to buy four radios by 2020. That's for everybody, not just the coroner's offices. These range anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 a piece. We've been out looking and looking and looking, and we come across a good deal of $425 for the 1 times 4 is about $1,700, and I bought them. They've been installed in our vehicles already. They're in good shape, and it's a heck of a lot of savings right there. And I'm hoping maybe the county would buy at least half of that, but we'll see what happens on that.
We need to make a motion to declare the radio surplus. Need a motion to declare the 3 portable radios as surplus. Mr. Washington, second by Mr. Hess. All in favor? Opposed? Chairman Wheeler?
This is the through ETSB, everybody's got to have new radios. This is part of that whole situation. Okay, I thought so.
Moving ahead of schedule.
Okay.
I'm going to jump into the PowerPoint. That'll bring everything up to date where we're at. I'll try and talk while I'm down here so I can see myself. This is from December 1st to right now, May 31st, the information that we're talking about. Our calls, as talked about, have risen from last year at this time, 674 down to 698. The amount of calls we got, that's on the top of your first sheet. You'll see different calls on there. So it's just climbing on us every year. There used to be a lot of more in the males, wives, and females. The females are coming up to almost 50%. In the month of deaths, as you can see on your other sheets of paper, this is what keeps us busy. We're over the 100 mark on the monthly deaths. A lot of these are natural cases, and a lot of them are coroner's cases that take a lot of investigation. They say that through 7 days a week, Sunday to Saturday, you see the amount of calls that we're having, so we really can't count on it if it's a busy Tuesday or what day. We could slack off on help a little bit, but it's constantly going. I think we average right now about 4.1 calls a day. Here's the big part right here. Autopsies are on the rise. This probably the busiest since I've. Well, I'm a wanderer. I might wander over there and wander over here. You got what? Can you hear me? Okay. All right, I'll try. Yeah, actually, I can back up here. Take it easier for you. I like to wander when I teach. Anyhow, we're up autopsies around 21 at this particular point, and since 1984, since I've been involved in the office, this is the most I've ever seen it come up, and it's constantly, there's no slowdown on it. Go ahead, Eric. Homicides are about the same, but there again, we had. We're on 3. We've already had one, I think, this last month here already, so go ahead, Eric. Suicides, as I talked about, have really gone up between the shooting, but not only hangings. I think we've had 7 hangings this year. Yeah, which is a lot that we're seeing out there. Mostly on depression, no jobs, stuff like that to equal it down, or involving the male-female divorce or something on that aspect. Go ahead. Overdoses. We're at 27 right now. In fact, just as we were sitting here, number 28 just came in. I can't tell you how bad it is out there, and it's a very big cost factor. It's costing us not only doing the autopsies, but also in the amount of money it's costing me extra in toxicology to bring out the fentanyl, bring out the different drugs that are type of fentanyls that are in the system, in the car fentanyl. These are things that I have to have. The state's attorney has to have these, and they definitely have to have an autopsy on this. So that's roughly on the expense right now. Morgue expenses in that aspect. Go ahead, next one. The motor vehicle accidents are about the same. I think we're at 9 right now in 17. Go ahead. The morgue expenses, as you can see, has doubled, and we're not really done. This is only 6 months, so it's been a constantly trying to figure out how to handle all this stuff. Is continuing. I know that we're putting a lot of stuff, even Will County is tied up with a lot of autopsy, putting a lot of pressure onto our forensics, and we're blessed to have 2 great forensics and 2 backup forensics. No other county has that. We're blessed to have that, and I want to hold on to them too, because it would double our expense if I had to go to Will County. So this is a big factor. As you can see, our morgue expense has gone from, what I wanted to point out there, this is back in 2010, and you can see the upgrade of that, of the expense, and it's even spiking extremely in 2017. Go ahead, Eddie. And here's the part right now that we're at $350,000 in my budget. We're anticipating at the $500,000 right now, if not more than that. If the way we're running right now, I can't stop. I mean, I just can't predict it. Here's an example too that'll be coming up here in a second. The Narcan, we've had 16 saves. You multiply that times 1,500, that's $24,000 that would have been added onto that if we didn't do the Narcan. And that's not even going with the EMS, the amount of saves that they've had also. So I want you to bear in mind on this, that this is where we're rising to, and we're definitely going to hit over the 500. I just know that. That's 150,000 over.
Mr. Hess?
Thank you, Chairman. Bob, is there any way that you could get a report from the hospital when there's a save with the EMS, just so you have some sort of statistic on the amount? I mean,
We are communicating back and forth on this, knowing the amount what EMS has done, and in the hospital, as we talked about before, that
because that would spike your even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you get those numbers.
Well, yeah, I'm blessed with the EMS system we've got in here that would save us. I mean, every day there's a save.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable what's out there. Let me just give you an example here. Not mentioning any names at all. This is just in one person. There's benzo, which is a pain medication, fentanyl, THC, which is marijuana, cocaine, fentanyl, and heroin. This is in one person. This is what you have to deal with. This is costing me an extra $200 just to find out all this stuff, and I have to have all that stuff. That's just in one person. That's what we have in this area here. And we're seeing a trend now, it might not go into this heroin because we're out there advertising all the time about this. This is going into cocaine now, going back to cocaine. A little more expensive. Eric, go ahead. Not only do we do all that stuff and do the autopsies and continue to do our system, this is what we've been involved with the community. We've been all over. We've touched over 3,300 people so far this year on all of the stuff that's going on here in Kankakee County. You can see the big crowd here at Herscher. That was one of the prom programs that we did. We bring them to the morgue to show them what happens. We go all over the place to try to turn. I learned so much at the Trinity United Methodist Church when I talked to a lot of the people that have been on heroin and off of heroin, on heroin. I learned so much about that. And what they told me is happening here in town. Go ahead. Last but not least, we're still doing this. We've just finalized city police here. I think we have about 5 to 10 more, and then also now we developed some more programs with people are kind of concerned about what can happen to the officer if they're intact with the fentanyl or the carfentanil. So we're constantly, and I say, my hat's off to my chief deputy, who I couldn't do without him, is he's constantly by my side all the time. But this is at 5 a.m. we do programs, all the way up to 10 o'clock at night we're doing programs, trying to do what we can to prevent anything more happening in this county. So we've been all over. We're doing our job the best of our ability. And I'm blessed that, like I said, to have good staff that are hardworking staff and helping me in every aspect that I can do. And I appreciate all that. Thank you. Great job. Also, is Brian still here? Hiding behind there? Brian and Pat, you solved my problem at the morgue for the officer, or Jay Hansen, who's working for the sheriff and myself too. But in his building there, once we get a bad one in there, it rotates over to his area. We've solved that particular problem because of Pat and Brian there, and it makes a difference. We just had probably the most decomposed body that came into our place, and that system cleared it right out. And with the air handling units, now that we know how to operate that, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And Brian too, and your staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The human cost can't be quantified in your discussion. It's the impact that it takes on you personally, I know, and then those in the community that impacts, even the addict that may feel lost. But know that the financial side of it we're accounting for in the projections on the budget. So I know, and I think most realize these are costs that can't be controlled for your office. And so we just need to know how that fits into the overall financial picture, and we're doing so. And finance, it'll be addressed this month. But I just want to mention, I know the emotional toll it takes on you, as it takes on a lot of us that have seen this impact friends, family, and the like. So it's understood, and thank you.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I just like the one year come out and say, hey, I'm under budget. And that one statistic, I looked all the way back to 2004. I've never been under budget, and that's why I'm illustrating right now that 500,000 is probably what I got to have. I would love to come down. It's just I can't. In the amount of, I know the forensics are going to go up in price, and also the toxicology. I mean, that's going to happen. So do the best. That way, I want to inform you about what goes on. Communication is the big factor, and now you know. And any other questions, I'll answer anybody's question.
Mr. Snipes.
One brief.
How did I know it was coming from you?
But I know as you go around the community, when you do things like Hershey or the schools where the children interact, I'm wondering if you all can just do the videotape it, put it on a DVD, and then put it on the cable access channel, which is channel 4, because I know they play it for free. And I'm wondering if that is another opportunity to kind of get the message out.
Something to think about, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob, for everything. Thank you. Any old business before the committee? Old business. Any new business? With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Mr. Vickery, second by Mr. Washington. Have a great day. Stay cool.